You're in the hot seat now for some real serious offences.
Not interested in it.
You're being accused of an armed robbery.
When a criminal strikes...
Money now. Don't put me till now.
Listen to me. Do anything I perceive to be a threat to life to be shot, do you understand?
Terrified victims deserve justice.
To have something like this held to your throat, absolutely petrifying.
It's innocent people going about their day-to-day lives. They didn't deserve this in the slightest.
First, detectives must identify a suspect.
This lad, and it's him.
Suspect's quite prolific. We really need to get this guy in custody.
Police, drop to your knees. Do not move. Right, you're arrest.
Get him over if you ain't now, innit?
Next,
Police.
they must hunt for concrete evidence.
Ooh, it's like George in the jungle in there.
That's him, innit?
Ah, perfect.
Then question the suspect face to face.
This is your opportunity. If you're going to tell us something, you tell us it now.
Did you put the knife to his throat?
Absolutely not.
What are we doing? Phone out there. You come up.
Get out of my way.
Will the evidence stand or fall?
That is that.
That is that.
Will the suspect confess or deny everything? Will the police uncover the truth in time?
24 hours is a very limited period of time, so carry out a full investigation.
Because time is ticking and we've got 8 hours left.
The best way to safeguard the public is to have the suspect in custody and remand them to prison.
Boom! All the charges, yes!
This time,
We've watched a group get some weapons.
a mass brawl leaves a man fighting for his life.
He's got a hole in his head.
And a manhunt for the armed suspects.
Ooh,
Is
that a crowbar? He needs to be the absolute priority.
Police officer retains it! And this time makes yourself known!
The police, what's your emergency? We're closing up, but we've got a really bad fire outside with customers.
How many people are involved?
Right, there's about 20 out here at the moment. We've watched a group get some weapons, and now they're heading towards the riverhead.
Police are receiving reports of a huge brawl rampaging through the streets.
The police, what's your emergency?
We've just had 6 lads run round to the front of Fusion, Old Victoria Street, with weapons, crowbars, spades, all sorts. One of them hit this lad with a crowbar. We shut doors immediately. 5 others run up behind with weapons.
Did the person that was hit with the crowbar look like they need an ambulance?
One of them definitely did, yeah.
You head up, we've got 3 patrols en route at the moment.
With both callers reporting weapons being used, officers race to the town centre. They immediately pursue a group of 9 men, seen running away.
You're under arrest on suspicion of GBH, alright, you do not have to say anything, but may harm his friends if you do not mention when questioned, something which you like rely on court, because there's been an incident and you've been seen running as police have turned up.
3 suspects are caught and arrested.
You sit there. Got it.
Step in and Montreal, put in, take a seat just there for us, please. Thank you. I've got a potential scene on New Street. There's a pool of blood near the ambulance.
3 victims of the attack are being treated for their injuries.
What have you been hit with?
He went through me with a crowbar, blocked it, took a big gash on the arm.
He's got a hole in his head. Like a crowbar hole. Penetrating head injury. The other ones are stable, but they're all covered in claret. He's got an hole in his arm. We need to get to Paul Sharpish.
Right. The hand injury is exactly the same shape as the head injury.
Is it?
Been hit with the same
thing, a crowbar, I said.
Probably.
Yeah.
All the way to the lamppost to the loose hair. That's where the blood goes up to.
Okay.
It's one hell of an hit, that one.
Yeah.
Police begin to question witnesses to try and piece together the circumstances of the attack.
So the guy in the red was stood here, talking to us, and they've come running round from here. Here's obviously, but there's been an incident, and I think it's spilled over here. Yeah. Okay.
You saw two running, and one in the black, all black, he got hit with the, I think it's a pipe, I saw a bit of curvage top. He was, the one near the lamp post was knocked out for a bit, he wasn't moving. The one that was in front, he had the big gash, he had a massive gash, covered hands, everything was just covered in stone blood. I've worked in nightclubs, I've seen blood, I've never seen anything like that. I'm just shaking.
Oh, bless you.
That's the worst thing I've ever seen.
Yeah.
While the victims are rushed to hospital, with one in critical condition from a head wound, the 3 suspects are taken to Birchin Way police station.
Hello again, Serge. What's your name? Madelko. Hello.
The other 2 suspects are named Madeleine Illier and Marian Vasilake.
Right, so you have been arrested on suspicion of grievous bodily harm. Yeah, that will be investigated while you're in custody. Once your clothing has been seized, you will go to a holding cell. 60. That one.
Police now have 24 hours to prove that the 3 suspects were involved in the brawl. But where are the other 6 assailants? And who is the man with the crowbar? In Grimsby.
Lad with weapon, one of them hit this lad with a crowbar.
A mass brawl has left 3 injured victims, one in critical condition.
He's got a hole in his head. Jesus.
So you're under arrest on suspicion of GBH, alright?
3 suspects have been arrested, but 6 are still at large.
He's in white top, he's got like dark bottoms.
White hoodie, dark bottoms?
Yeah.
Due to the severity of the attacks, the case has been passed to CID.
Okay, grab a chair.
Headed by Detective Superintendent Nicky Burnett.
Yeah, boss, we've got 3 males in custody. We've got a Mirel Korf, Marianne Vasilaki, and a Madeleine Illier.
I'm assuming, were they at the scene, located
at
the scene?
Yes.
Okay.
We've got a male who's in critical, life-threatening condition at HRI with a serious head injury. Appears to be struck with an implement, potentially with a crowbar.
Okay. So I've seen the injury photographs. It's really nasty, actually, isn't it?
I believe there's others that have been assaulted, but not to the same level.
So this is the actual assault?
Yeah.
Detective Superintendent Nicky Burnett and Detective Inspector Scott Miller review the CCTV footage of the incident.
And you can see male with, it's almost like a striking motion in the air there.
Oh my God.
And we'll see him hitting
Oh my goodness.
And he's now he's on the floor. He's not
That's
moving.
horrendous.
He's still hitting him.
Yeah. He was like hitting him with as much effort as he could there above his head.
Yeah, the movement he's seen in CCTV is definitely that of somebody almost like chopping wood or something, isn't it?
There's obviously more suspects outstanding. We've got the 3 in custody then, so priorities today will be interview of those 3. And then the passive data, CCTV trawl. So we've got a group of people here who think nothing to go and arming themselves. Our main priority is to make sure that they are arrested. They're clearly dangerous individuals, and whilst they're out on the streets, then there's a chance they could do this again.
First, the team must try to get an understanding of the events leading up to the assault.
So he comes over there, and what's safe, he goes back.
They review footage of the original brawl.
So just watching the initial CCTV, we've got initially some form of physical altercation between two groups of males, which spills out into the street, maybe 15 to 20 individuals involved. And then we pick up one of the groups of males in further footage, and they're then seen to go to the rear of a white van, and then from that we've got individuals taking items from the back of the van and then making their way towards the person we know to be our intended victim.
You're doing comparison with the ones who got locked up.
Next, the team tried to determine any role the three men in custody played in the attack. They compare clothing they were wearing when they were arrested to clothing seen in the CCTV footage.
Dark shoulder jacket is going to be Madeline Illy. So I've got him swinging a spade.
Okay, and we've got him in custody, yeah?
Yeah, in custody.
Okay.
Believe that this chap here is Marian Vasilaki. That's him upon arrest.
Yeah.
You see him in his light-coloured or grey-coloured hooded top.
Yeah.
So really content.
Yeah.
One and the same. He's been running towards our complainants and our victims and offering violence.
Do we see him with a weapon?
No, I can see.
Okay. So
Burgundy, that's Burgundy jacket man, isn't he? Is that Muriel Korf in the picture?
Yes. Yes, with the moustache.
Yeah. And then we've also got Muriel Korf on this footage as well, who can be clearly seen to be throwing punches in the direction of people.
While the hunt for the other 6 suspects continues, police interview the 3 men in custody.
What we will be doing is testing their accounts. We'll be trying to tie them into a story and then challenge that story. So if they do tell us a lie in the interview, we can then present them with the evidence that shows that the account they've given us was a lie.
So we are now recording. We're at Birchingway Custody Suite in Grimsby. Can you give me your full name, please?
Ilie Madalin Valentin.
Okay, so you've been arrested for an assault. Tell me what happened.
No comment.
Okay. What was your involvement in this incident?
No comment.
I'm going to show you some CCTV. Does that look familiar?
No comment.
Did you identify anyone in that CCTV?
No comment.
The person in the same clothing in the last CCTV was actually holding a shovel or a spade.
No comment.
I believe you're arrested not far from here in the same jacket as that.
No comment.
We're saying that to you.
No comment.
We're showing you what's happened last night. It shows you you're one of the aggressors going tooled up.
No comment.
Okay. We've got no more questions for you. Okay. Is there anything you'd like to add?
No.
Okay, that's only recording.
Madeline Illier is not talking. Detectives now confront the next suspect, Marian Vasilaki, with the CCTV.
We're going to show you this. I want you to watch it.
Eu m-am dus și eu acolo ușor, i-am dat show la unul, o fugit la roșu, brațul ăla care a zis. Era omul ăla care a fugit la, atunci omul ăla în roșu, care era îmbrăcat în roșu. A venit la colț acolo și a arătat un pumn acolo.
Ok.
După ce am mai stat, după ce s-a făcut acolo, erau, a căzut doi jos acolo și erau doi jos. Când am venit eu cu colțul.
So the other ones used the metal bar. And who were they? Do you know any of them?
Cunosc că mai văzut nimeni fără, nu știu cum m-am putut agita făcut.
Why have you then chased around and gone to punch the guy in the top, red top?
M-am dus ca să bat filmul. A zis că s-a bătut el, când a zis că s-a bătut, că odată în el, știi?
Right, you can see what's going on, but that doesn't mean you punch someone. So I'm asking you, what the difference is there? Was it something that you planned once you got there?
Noi mergem de acolo. A fost prea red.
Just to clarify, you're with a group that you've met before, but you don't really know the names. Fight breaks out, you've thrown 2 punches at the guy in the red. You've not touched the other 2 victims, and you chase around because everyone else does.
Yes, I didn't touch the other 2.
Okay. I've got no more questions. Have you got anything else you want to add?
No.
No. Okay.
With one suspect admitting his involvement, detectives are hunting for the other 6 men still at large.
We've got one all in dark clothing.
D.I. Miller has received news from the hospital.
Have you got victim update?
Yeah. Update from hospital is no longer critical.
Thank goodness.
So he's going to be okay.
Okay, that's good news. The interviews?
Still ongoing.
Yeah.
Okay. So we're likely to get further lines of inquiry and fast-track actions from those interviews, which might lead us to further suspect identification.
Yeah.
It's now Mirel Korf's turn to be interviewed. Will he identify any of the other perpetrators of the assault?
In here.
Okay, so we are now recording. You were arrested for an assault. Tell me about it.
Nu am nicio adresare, absolut nicio adresare nu am. Mi-am fost la bar, m-am luat și pe el, am început bătaie pe acolo. Așa am plecat de la barul ăla unde a fost incidentul cu bătăie pe acolo, am plecat la alt bar, adică am evitat cu el, nu știu de cum să fac altceva eu pe acolo și până să-mi iau femeilor.
Okay. So, you said where the incident happened. Do you know what incident we're talking about?
Conflict, nu știu, între ei ce au avut. Englezește, englezi s-au luat la conflict acolo afară și eu am ieșit și am plecat cu prietenul ăsta. Și mergeam pe trotuar și când am ajuns până în bar, m-am uitat, am văzut închis, am dat să mă întorc înapoi să plec acasă, m-am oprit.
When you're trying from leaving that first bar to being arrested, has he seen any other conflict?
Nu, absolut nu.
After denying he was involved, Mirel Korf is then challenged with the CCTV evidence.
Okay. I'm just going to show you a video. Okay. Now that's paused. You can see it a bit clearer. Can you see anyone in that CCTV footage that you identify?
That's you.
Okay. Which one's you?
Ăsta de aici. Da.
This one here. Okay.
Da, mă, n-ai de ce să mai mă feresc, recunosc totuși. Nu pot să mă ascund.
I can't find.
Pentru că aici scanner peste tot și nu poți face acolo nimic.
Okay. Tell me then.
Anterior, m-au primit telefon. Precum că au avut un conflict. Și au zis, îmbracă direct de cu Vasili, are probleme în centru. Și am crezut că ia bătaie. Așa, am ajuns în centru, eu nu am făcut găsit și cum și-am intrat direct cu gura locului.
As I got into the town and it seemed like I walked into the wolf's mouth.
Am ajuns acolo și nu am știut, adică pur și simplu sigur și nu mi-au explicat băieții din ce și cum. Când am ajuns, ei direct au început să dea cu pumnii, cu mâna.
Mirel Korf has admitted his involvement. But will he go further?
Name them. Okay, so this person?
Cine este?
Mihai. Dănuț. Ăsta aici.
You know his surname?
Nu știu.
Where he lives?
de la noi la un sfert de ore, care pe casa altă este lor.
Okay, and now you're telling the truth. Îmi spui adevărul acum, da?
Da.
What's your address?
Adresa mea este aici unde stau eu, dar o am pe telefon și am greșit.
Okay. We don't have any more questions for you. And thank you very much for being honest with us.
Da.
De acolo.
Trebuia să recunosc din primul.
I should have said it from the beginning. Yes, you should.
Era mai
You would have been better.
It's a huge breakthrough. Police now have the first names of the 6 outstanding suspects.
Madam, you don't have to get up. Just listen to what the officer has to say.
With the interviews and the strong CCTV, the Crown Prosecution Service agreed to charge all 3 with violent disorder.
Before we do, we need to first use or threatened unlawful violence when present together with others, being 3 or more persons in total.
I remanded him into custody to appear at Brunsey Magistrates Court in the morning.
The remaining attackers are still at large.
This is some of the closest footage I've seen, I think.
But detectives have uncovered new CCTV footage.
So I have them coming down this road shortly.
What street is this one?
Is it the library?
The library, yeah. Yeah, okay. All right, oh yeah, that's right. They're going down towards where Fusion is there, aren't they? Ooh.
Item in hand.
Is that a crowbar then? That you've
Looks
got
like crowbar, yes.
That could have caused that injury to his head, you know, with the bit that goes over at the top.
Police now have clear evidence that their suspect number 1 was wielding a crowbar.
So, White Gilet Man needs to be the absolute priority at the moment.
The race is on to track him down.
Just had blood with weapons. One of them hit this lad with a crowbar.
Police are hunting a group of 9 men responsible for several vicious assaults.
I remanded him into custody to appear at Brunsey Magistrates Court in the morning.
They've already charged 3 suspects with violent disorder.
This person.
One of them has given the police names.
First age.
And now they need to locate the remaining 6 suspects. At the scene of the incident, forensics officers are gathering evidence that might help provide full identities.
We don't know if any of the people that have assaulted our injured people have been injured as well. So to get somebody's blood who is a suspect at the scene will be quite interesting.
They've also seized the suspect's white van.
OK, so we've imaged the vehicle in situ and the surrounding streets and taken it really into context of the pedestrian precinct looking down at the Fusion. So we've got it sort of located.
That looks like absolute chaos in the back of there.
Crime scene investigators Kirsty Richmond and Alicia Whiteley are examining the vehicle.
Literally just work stuff. Yeah. This vehicle was one that the males were seen getting weapons in and out of. I mean, there's a couple of saws that are in easy access, but they're in a box quite happily sat there. It's a bit of a letdown in the rear with not being anything obvious that the officers were after.
Next, they search for fingerprints and DNA evidence.
The officers have asked us to have a look at it, see if we can find anything to try and identify the people that have been inside the vehicle. So we can get, you know, if there's cigarettes, if there's drinks bottles, people leave vapes, you know, mobile phones even, all sorts of things can be left that we can then get some DNA or fingerprints from. Some definitely on the outside, there's some big ones there. So we've got about 20 exhibits in total. We've got a few fingerprints, lots of other bits of DNA. So that will go off to the lab.
While the forensic samples are sent for analysis, back at Birchin Way, the team have made a breakthrough.
Detectives have been working to try and establish who that van belongs to. It looks that the registered keeper is actually a Mihai Vasilaki. Looking at the CCTV of the incident and cross-referencing and comparing that against social media images of Mihail Vasilaki. And we can see him with three of the person on the CCTV at this time, actually approaching and taking items from the rear of the van that belongs to him, and then they all walk towards the where our intended victim of the incident is. So Mihai Vasilaki is a suspect.
Police arrest him at the address the vehicle is registered to. Mihail Vasilaki is brought into custody.
The allegation is that he has been identified through police inquiries as being one of a number of males who have assaulted other males using weapons which has caused injuries consistent with being grievous bodily harm.
Detectives interview him to see if he will give an account of his role in the assault.
So you were arrested for an assault in the early hours of yesterday morning in Grimsby Town Centre. Tell me your knowledge of that incident. Nothing. When was the last time you was in Grimsby Town Centre?
Not much.
When you go out to Grimsby, into the town centre, how would you usually get there?
Nothing.
Okay. Okay. And whose car is that?
Mine.
Okay. And what type of car is it? Can you describe it to me?
Van.
Okay. And what colour is this van? Between 1 o'clock in the morning to around about 4 o'clock in the morning yesterday, which was the 1st of April, were you out in your van?
No.
Was anyone else in your... Were you driving out in your van between those hours?
No.
So I'm just going to show you some CCTV. So this shows a white van. Do you recognise that van?
No.
Okay. Do you recognise the two people now that are going towards the van?
No.
Or the third person that's just come up?
No.
Was that you?
No.
So as you can see from that, 3 people have run off with items from that van. Have you supplied these people with these weapons?
No.
Were you involved in this at all?
No.
Did you know anything about this at all?
No.
Is there anything else now in this interview which is your chance to tell us what's going on? What you want to tell us?
No.
Okay. The time is 19:30. Yeah, all right, yeah, that's a new call.
Mihail Vasilaki is giving no clues to the whereabouts of the 5 suspects, including the man in the white gilet, who has been named as Adi. But investigations into addresses associated to the men in custody have given detectives a new lead.
So we strongly suspect now that a large proportion of our suspects reside at the same property. We also know that post the initial assault with fists outside the public house, we know a phone call was made by Mirel Korf to an associate at that property. So we're carrying out further arrest attempts at that location.
Stay there! Stay there! Stay there!
Right, it's moving time under arrest on suspicion of violent disorder. All right? Stand up, stay where you are. Stand there, see him now. Downstairs. It's too secure. Police officer, retain his head! And inside, make yourself known!
Inside the property, police find two men
He's already locked up.
who were both arrested and brought back to Birchin Way police station.
What's your name, please?
Vasile, Corp.
What's your name?
Mihalache Dumitru Danut.
All details.
Mihalika Danut and Vasile Korf are the next suspects to be brought into custody. Will they admit to their involvement in the attacks?
Could you please state your full name?
Corp. Vasile.
He was arrested on suspicion of GBH and also on suspicion of violent disorder. Can you tell me in as much detail as possible your involvement in these allegations? Have you assaulted anyone?
No comment.
Did you use a weapon to hurt anybody?
No comment.
Did you see anybody hit anyone with a weapon?
No comment.
Vasile Korf is refusing to give an account. Will Mihalaka Danut provide any more information?
We are in interview room 4 at Grimsby Birchin Way. You're suspected of being involved in these offences and you're arrested on suspicion of grievous bodily harm.
Da, este adevărat.
Yes, it's true.
Eu nu am agresat pe absolut nimeni, doar am alergat după acea persoană. Victima a fost agresată de către un amic Adelin.
Adelin's hit somebody with a weapon?
Da.
Yes. She'll watch a bit of CCTV.
So,
Eu fiind aici.
yeah,
I'm here.
plugged
In the back.
So, he's assaulted one. You were watching.
Zădul pe Adelin, lovindu-l pe cel de albastru. Și lovindu-l Adelin cu ranga.
And again, Adeline hit him with the metal ball.
Adelin.
Danut has given the full first name of the man with the crowbar, Adeline.
You don't know his surname?
Numele complet nu.
No.
Dar această poză puteți o dați la aeroport că pleacă în seara asta.
But you should send the picture to the airport because he booked a flight to leave tonight.
Oh. Right.
It's a bombshell for the detectives. Their main suspect is about to flee the country.
How do you know that?
Am vrut să fac și eu același lucru, dar am decis că e mai bine să rămân și l-am întrebat cât a dat pe biletul de avion.
Do you know when he's leaving? Where from?
Pleacă de la adresa lui Mihai, de unde este mașina.
He leaves.
Duba. Dar adresa nu...
From Mihai's address.
Unde ajunge, habar nu.
Can you tell you what town?
She says la Jordan?
Nu.
No. That's asking seara asta.
Da.
But he's told me that it's for tonight.
Spre România, da.
To Romania, yes.
Anything you wish to add?
No.
The time report tomorrow, which is 48 hours, I'm bringing this into a college.
Școala pe care o această lumină este 14.
One of our suspects has informed us that the male with the white gilet, he has actually purchased a ticket to go back to Romania. This obviously gives us some urgency now. We need to get this individual before he jumps on a plane. So the clock's ticking now, it really is. If he were to leave the country, it would be very difficult, you know, to locate him and bring him back again to face justice.
Danut has told police he is likely to be at the home of the owner of the white van, Mikhail Vasilake.
Elusa, make yourself known!
Officers enter the property.
Clear. Clear.
But it's empty. Are they too late? Has he fled the UK? Police are still hunting for 3 outstanding suspects responsible for vicious and violent attacks, including the man who inflicted the serious injuries with a crowbar.
Dar această poză puteți o dați la aeroport că pleacă în seara asta.
You should send the picture to the airport because he booked a flight to leave tonight.
They have raided his address after a tip-off that he is about to flee the country,
There's no vehicles on the front.
but have so far been unable to track him down. With time running out, detectives at Birchin Way Police Station urgently investigate any other addresses he may be linked to.
Can I just take your name, please? Can you spell that for me?
Here's some pictures here of the clothing that was worn.
Officers at the property search for any clothing he was wearing on the night.
What weapons were outstanding?
I think it was just a crowbar.
Crowbar.
I'll say what.
What shoe descriptions did we have?
One of them was like cream.
To come down here, one for an arrest attempt for the outstanding suspects, but also to see if any items related to the offence were found, what we believe to be the clothing that the suspect was wearing, whilst he was believed to be involved in the assault which took place yesterday night.
Back at Birchin Way Police Station, there's been a major development.
Is it Adeline? Adeline? Have you ever been arrested before?
After new intelligence identified the address of an associate, plainclothes officers have arrested their main suspect.
I'm authorising your detention here at Birchin Way Police Station to obtain evidence by way of questioning. So what that means is you need to be interviewed in relation to that allegation to see whether you know anything about that incident. Okay. So that's why I'm going to hold you here and then we'll get you interviewed.
He's taken for interview. But what will he say about the assault?
Okay, we are now recording. Just the time interesting. Can you give me your full name?
My name is Balikoi Agli.
Thank you. Okay. So, you've been arrested for an assault that happened yesterday morning in the early hours in Grimsby Town Centre. We're just going to show you some video footage now. Did you see yourself on that CCTV?
Te-ai văzut pe tine acolo?
Yes. And what did you see yourself doing on that CCTV?
Am lovit persoana respectivă.
Explain to me, step by step, what you have done. M-am și spus.
S-au luat la ceartă Mihail cu doi în bar. Pe urmă am ieșit afară, au mai ieșit și câțiva englezi. Nu eram decât 4-3, eu și cu Cătălin. Și au început cearta afară și un pământură, căzut la pământ, dintele rupt.
With my broken tooth and some grazing on my hands and my knees.
Pe urmă au plecat englezii care ne certam afară. Unul dintre ei a sunat băieții de acasă pe care i-a adus ulterior cu mașina. Cine era Mihail și Valentin? Mihail ne instigase.
It was myself, Mihail, and Valentin.
Mihail ne instigase să luăm arme din mașină, dar Mihail să luăm armele. Valentin mi-a dat o frangă. După ce am ajuns la ei, am lovit o persoană, două persoane, cred. N-am vrut să-i sperii, n-am mai vrut să-i sau ceva, nu am avut intenția să dau.
I wanted to scare him.
You don't say you don't have the intention of injuring or hurting, but you hit him with a metal bar.
Conștient că inițial am vrut să-l sperii și am lovit cu franga.
What changed? Why did you go from scaring to actually hitting?
Nu știu, m-am așteptat fost să fugă și acolo atât.
So, as I'm looking at the CCTV here, I'm already counting 4 swings with this metal pole towards one of the victims. But you're saying you've only hit him twice.
Două știu că l-am lovit.
I know that I hit you only twice.
L-am lovit pe cealaltă.
I think the other people kicked him and punched him.
Would you say this is revenge from the earlier issue where you've been punched?
Nu, am vrut să-i sperii, n-am vrut să mă răzbun.
It was a revenge.
Even if you wanted to go scare them, why did you pick up a weapon?
N-am vrut să iau nimic în mână.
Yes, I didn't want to take anything on my hands, but it was offered to me.
This is the injuries that this gentleman has suffered. This young man's not well enough to give a statement to us just yet. You're saying
I didn't hit this one.
Okay. So, you've said you've gone there to scare him, but the CCTV shows that you hit one of them as soon as you've come around the corner. So, how are you meant to scare someone if your actions are straight in, let's go and assault someone? I don't have any more questions. Did you want anything? Okay.
It's a result for detectives. The confession of their suspect number 1. And there's also more good news.
They're going to hand themselves in at a police station. Are they going to do that regardless, or only if we speak to them?
The 2 remaining suspects are going to hand themselves in. They are both arrested on arrival at Birchin Way Police Station.
We've managed to identify all of the suspects. We need to put this case to CPS and hopefully secure the charges, because it's really important that we get these people taken off our streets.
So we'll get a decision on the recent charges to occur.
people have been shot with crossbows.
Good evening. In a quiet cul-de-sac near Watford, a terrifying crime was discovered.
They were the murders that shocked the nation.
This is a very, very clearly planned attack.
This is now a major investigation into a triple murder.
A calculating jealous ex turned killer.
It literally would have been blood, death, and horror at every turn.
3 members of the same family, dead.
Many of the neighbours have described hearing screams.
The officers would have walked into what would have been some form of a bloodbath.
Sparking a major manhunt to find an armed murderer.
You have got a crossbow killer on the loose, with police scrambling helicopters to try and find him.
Kyle, if you're seeing or hearing this, please make contact with the police via 999.
But who is Kyle Clifford, the sadistic murderer behind these shocking atrocities?
He was manipulative, he was coercive.
We examine his past.
You don't expect that anybody you ever know is capable of doing that to another human being.
And the evidence that sentenced him to life.
He's in shops buying rope, he's buying a crossbow and bolts, going about his normal life.
This is the story of the crossbow killer.
He's very cold, he's very calculating, he is a very dangerous individual. Bushey is in Hertfordshire. It's classic commuter belt into London. It's a wealthy part of town. It's very quiet. People go there because they want a secluded lifestyle. They cannot possibly have expected what's to be visited upon them.
On the 9th of July 2024, a 999 call is made from a home in Bushey. The police arrive on the scene to find 3 women have been attacked with a weapon.
It would have been absolute carnage. You had 3 women, 2 of them that were dead, and the officers trying to resuscitate one individual. Their mindset would be thinking about what else is going on in those premises. Was the suspect there? Where was the weapon? Is there anybody else in the house?
The perpetrator had left the scene. They wouldn't have known that when they first got there. So searching the house, the gardens, and immediately then when he's not identified within the scene, they would be focusing their efforts on trying to understand A, who it is, and B, where they might be.
The question they'd be asking themselves is, why has somebody come into this home and inflicted such horrific injuries on those victims? Who was that person? Why did they do that? And where were they now?
12 minutes after the 999 call, and the 3rd victim has now died from her injuries. This has now become a triple murder investigation.
There would have been some very fast-time actions that needed to be undertaken to try and establish what had actually happened. For example, they needed to view a Ring doorbell or some CCTV footage, or make some very urgent house-to-house inquiries. This has now become a manhunt for the suspect.
As forensics arrive at the house, the police begin to work out the details of the victims and how this murder has happened.
The scene would have been locked down very, very quickly in terms of preservation of the scene. There would be a full forensic examination of those victims.
Armed police are here. Must have been 20 police cars. The air ambulance has gone across.
In the last hour, police have said the 3 women were aged 25, 28 and 61, and they believe they were related.
Carol, mum, was stabbed and had multiple stab injuries, which would have created a gruesome scene. Louise has died as a result of a crossbow attack. And Hannah, they can see that she too has been shot with a crossbow.
Now, police are appealing for anyone in this area, particularly, who may have heard or seen something between lunchtime and 7 o'clock.
Well, we remember the news that 3 women had been killed in a leafy suburb. And then we start hearing that there's rumours the weapon was a crossbow.
This area of Bushey is in lockdown, and you can understand why. Parents aren't allowing their children to go out and play. Well, would you? That would have been a town living in utter fear, a mixture of fear, horror, and immense grief. In this house of horrors, there are 3 innocent women dead. They have been slaughtered in the midst of this town.
Someone shot someone. 3 people have been shot with crossbows.
My producer phoned me as the story developed, and it was the most extraordinary set of circumstances.
It's been police helicopters. They must have been there for 4 or 5 hours. Police everywhere down the side road still.
The fact that a crossbow's been used as part of this attack is really significant. They're not as accessible or as widely used or as available as even firearms on our streets today in the UK. And somebody has gone in there with intent to do serious violence.
You hear of a triple murder and you're immediately trying to work out why. And already you think 3 members of a family, this is probably someone who knew the family. And was it to do with debts? Could it be money related or something relationship related?
Based on the horrific scene that unfolded for those officers, it would have been clear to them that this was some form of a targeted attack.
This was a manhunt, but not just any manhunt, a manhunt for someone with a crossbow, so someone extremely dangerous who has committed a triple murder was out there somewhere with this extremely dangerous weapon.
Good evening. In a quiet cul-de-sac near Watford, a terrifying crime was discovered.
Emergency services, including 2 air ambulances, were called just after 7 o'clock.
In the small town of Bushey, 3 women have been found brutally murdered in their home.
A mother and her 2 adult daughters killed in what police are calling a targeted attack.
A crossbow and knife attack, which took place inside their own home.
Leaving a community frozen in fear of a crossbow killer on the loose.
It's an absolutely horrific thing to happen here. Many of the neighbours have described hearing screams.
A crime almost unimaginable in its scale and nature.
And Hertfordshire police facing one of Britain's biggest and most gruesome murder investigations.
The officers who first attended on the scene would never have and will never see again what greeted them. It literally would have been blood, death and horror at every turn. They knew they would have a crime of enormous gravity on their hands.
This is now a major investigation into a triple murder.
The investigation will move at pace, and very quickly the police will understand and identify key factors. The thing that's really important when police respond in a case like this is the media latching onto it really, really quickly. So who are your victims? What do we know about them? And who's their next of kin?
As the details came out, the identities of the women, the fact that they were related to each other and their link to someone who is a public figure, all of those details made this such a shocking and extraordinary story.
This is one of the victims, Carol Hunt, who's the wife of the BBC racing commentator John Hunt. It's thought the other women killed are 2 of their daughters, Hannah and Louise.
There's a deep sense of shock on these quiet streets. The 3 lives taken so cruelly.
I knew Hannah well because I've been going to her for my nails for probably 8 years.
She hadn't turned up for work and they were wondering why she was late, and of course it's transpired why, and that really hit hard.
Everything we know about the Hunt family suggests they were a really, really happy family.
The Irish Hennessy, Carlingford Lock!
John Hunt, a public figure, a really well-known BBC and Sky Sports commentator for horse racing, known in the community and known around the country.
I know quite a few people in the racing fraternity, and they have nothing but good to say about the man. He seemed to put together a wonderful family. He's got a loving wife. His wife, Carol, the mother of the 3 daughters, so they're living at the house in Bushy. Then you've got Louise, Hannah, her sister, and another sister, Amy, who fortunately was not at the premises on that fateful day.
To have children still living in the family home in their 20s suggests just how happy they were.
We know that Louise also ran her business from home, so she had a lovely little pod in the garden where she ran her dog grooming business. I think we really get the sense when you hear the inner workings of the home and how Louise worked there and the girls still felt comfortable to come back, that they really wanted to be together and that they enjoyed spending time together. It was a really happy place to be where everyone felt really, really welcome.
Such a lovely family, like you could just tell they were a real tight-knit family, used to go on holidays together.
I missed Carol. I just really missed her and I can't believe this has happened. We were friends, really close friends.
John had a picture book family. He's living in a very nice part of the country. He's respected in his profession. He's doing a job he loves. He's doing a job he's bloody good at. He's got a loving wife. He's got 3 gorgeous daughters. And then this is visited upon him.
Initial police investigations determined that the original 999 call was made by Hannah as she lay dying in her doorway.
It was her sister Hannah who called police to their quiet cul-de-sac in Bushy.
Police and paramedics had been called by Hannah, who they found in the doorway. She had been shot with a crossbow.
Police receive a breakthrough as to the identity of the family's killer.
The sister who has arrived, Hannah, walked in these horrors without any knowledge. Her mother dead. Her sister bound dead. She then gets fired another crossbow bolt.
What we know is that Hannah, who was lying there dying, had managed to very, very bravely, she made a 999 call to the police.
As part of that call to the operator, she was able to provide a name of the person who was responsible.
Hannah identified her sister's ex-boyfriend, so that's a massive breakthrough. The police now have a name, Kyle Clifford.
Kyle Clifford was the #1 suspect. They would be working very, very fast time on intelligence records to actually have some further information to establish who this Kyle Clifford was. Was he known to them? Had he come to notice from the police before? Did they have an address for him? Did they know about a car that he was driving? As much information as they possibly could have to be able to locate him at the earliest opportunity.
The police are obviously able to do background checks very quickly, and they will ascertain that Clifford actually had lived the most unremarkable life. He's had one brief involvement with police in the past, but he's pretty much an unknown, save for the fact that they have very good reason to believe he's just murdered 3 members of the same family.
Where is he? Police hunt a man after a triple murder in Hertfordshire.
This is the man police have been trying to track down, Kyle Clifford.
They say he may still be armed with a crossbow and are asking the public to call 999 if they see him, but warn not to approach him.
Kyle Clifford was the #1 suspect for the police, and it was imperative that they try to find him as fast as they possibly could.
They're looking for a man who's prepared to commit acts of extreme violence. He's very cold, he's very calculating, and he has planned this out. He is a very dangerous individual who needs to be caught as soon as possible.
Significant resources were put into this. Officers from Hertfordshire and from the Metropolitan Police would have been working collaboratively. They used helicopters, firearms officers. They were conducted house-to-house inquiries.
This was a mammoth operation. Dozens of police officers looking for him, searching all across Hertfordshire.
The police are focused on the areas of Hertfordshire and in the vicinity of Carl Clifford's home around the Enfield area. His house was raided by police and he wasn't found there.
Hertfordshire Police said it was the largest scale manhunt they've ever conducted to date. They took the quite rare step of actually releasing a lot of details about the killer, which police don't often do. You had a man who had committed 3 murders, was still armed with a crossbow. They needed to get him and get him quick.
Our overarching objective today is to protect public safety and to locate Kyle Clifford in the wake of what has been an horrific incident involving what is currently believed to be a crossbow, but other weapons may also have been used.
You need to make it clear to the public he is dangerous. Quite often we like to protect some of the aspects of the investigation, but of course the thing about a crossbow is it can be fired from a significant distance, and you don't want people being lulled into that false sense of security that I can see him from X distance away or X meters away and I'm safe, because quite clearly you might not be safe.
The priority is to be able to close the net, to be able to confine this suspect into one particular area.
22 hours after the horrific killings comes a breakthrough. There's been a sighting of Carl Clifford and police are closing in. But as they do, he does the unthinkable.
He's been seen going into a cemetery in Enfield. Once cornered in the cemetery, as the police move in, Clifford decides to try and take his own life by shooting himself with a crossbow. But it doesn't kill him.
He shot himself with the crossbow in the chest, and from then on he's paralysed from the chest down.
Given that his injuries were so serious, their priority was to provide medical attention to him and to ensure that he was taken to hospital where he could be treated for his injuries.
Police finally have their man. But now they need to find out what could drive someone to commit 3 horrific murders. After killing 3 members of the same family, triple murderer Carl Clifford shot himself with a crossbow as the manhunt closed in on him. While in hospital under arrest, police are gathering evidence, trying to paint a picture of the events leading up to the murders and the person who committed them.
Troops, listen in! Prepare to double! Prepare to double!
You don't expect that anybody you ever know or come into contact with is capable of doing that to another human being. You know, the spitefulness and the callousness is just, you can't really put into words, I suppose.
Connor Wilson is a former captain in the British Army. He would take new recruits through their 14-week training programme.
I met Carl Clifford in October 2019. He was one of the first recruits I took at the Army Training Centre. One of the early impressions I had of Carl Clifford was just insecure, immature young boy. Once they've got their uniform and things, we give them a lesson on social media security and personal security. So about a week later, I would go through their social media profiles. Now, the good recruits would have made them all private. Carl Clifford had a mirror selfie of him in full army uniform as his profile picture. Now, it was always the immature ones that would do that, the ones that want to impress. Look at me, I'm in the British Army.
Kyle didn't know who he was. The fact that he chose the army is really interesting because people in the army have a very strong sense of identity, a very strong pathway in terms of a career. I think he stepped into something that actually had an identity already created for him. It's very telling to me that he chose a career like that and yet didn't flourish in that environment. He couldn't really hack the pace.
One of the lessons I would take them through would be a speed, distance, time calculation. So if I travel for 60 miles at 60 miles an hour, how long would it take? And he could not grasp the concept. He couldn't get it, and he would come frustrated and angry that he wasn't getting it. It's not abnormal that we get people that struggle academically. It's absolutely fine and we're prepared for it. But I remember how annoyed he was that he couldn't grasp it.
I unfortunately had to find myself disciplining Kyle Clifford quite often. He was on a section commander's warning for not listening by week 5, which is quite unheard of. I had to constantly tell him to do the same basic things over and over again. It's because he felt like he didn't have to listen to me. I do believe, had he had a male section commander, that his performance would have been different. Clifford at times struggled to fit in with his peers. It was known that he wasn't well liked by everybody in the section and within the platoon as a whole.
With the section commanders, he would shrink in their presence. He looked at them like a lost puppy. He seemed to quite enjoy the authority and the power dynamic, particularly amongst the male members of the training team.
It was known that Clifford was flirtatious with the other female recruits. I felt at times he probably saw me as a bit of a peer. Obviously being a female, he'd bought me some milk from the shop during a break time, and when he returned I asked him, "How much do I owe you?" And his response was, "Your smile is enough for me, Corporal," which is inappropriate, to say the least.
You know, some recruits you do wonder how they're going to get on. You have high hopes for some. Clifford was never one that I wanted to check in on particularly. He was just another soldier I took through. So I never gave Clifford much thought. In fact, I don't think I ever thought of him again.
Kyle Clifford did not complete his minimum contract with the British Army. That is usually 4 years. He was out within 2. I wasn't surprised to find out that he'd left, but it is unusual.
What comes across is just how unremarkable Kyle Clifford was. Someone who was immature and insecure, who had failed in life, essentially.
It was in December 2022, on a dating app, when Kyle first met Louise Hunt, who he would later go on to tragically murder, along with her family. During their 18-month relationship, the couple would enjoy trips away together, and Kyle regularly visited the family home.
Louise was an open-hearted person. She entered this relationship for all of the right reasons. She did love Kyle. He was very nice and very charming. He knows how to present himself to groups of people to appear like he's a nice guy. What he wants to do is lure people in with his personality and his persona. But once he has those people there, the real Kyle would come to the surface.
Perpetrators of abuse, they will wine and dine, love bomb you, zoom into any vulnerabilities you might have, say the things that you want to hear. Louise would have been looking for the good in him.
It didn't take long for cracks to appear in Kyle's facade.
There were lots of red flags from Kyle Clifford during his relationship with Louise, and we know now that she had reservations about him.
Louise felt this toxicity building over time. It was a very toxic relationship for her.
She feels he's unnecessarily aggressive. She also claims that sometimes he makes racist comments and he has a temper.
Her family were never really that keen on him. Her friends around her were not that keen either.
He was manipulative, he was coercive. And Louise's friends did witness a change in their friend and a change in her personality, her demeanour.
A perpetrator of abuse will be very subtle when they start putting these terms and conditions into the relationship. You know, perhaps they might think, you know, you're in too much foundation, or I don't like the fake tan, I don't like the false eyelashes.
Louise stopped wearing makeup because of things that Kyle had said, chipping away at Louise and how she felt about herself, making her feel small. It was all a part of his grander plan to make her feel like she was trapped, she couldn't go anywhere. And we know also that he started to do really inflammatory things in public and kind of bring her down and humiliate her. Louise was starting very early on to become aware of the fact that this was not a good match. But it's never that easy to walk away.
Early on in their relationship, Kyle revealed a shocking truth about his family.
It's emerged Clifford has a brother who is also in jail after killing someone following a road rage incident.
In terms of family dynamics, from knowing what we know now, about what Kyle's done, about what his brother did, must clearly come from a dysfunctional family, whereas obviously in contrast to that, Louise's family seemed wonderful.
Louise was never happy about him visiting his brother in prison, sometimes every other week. She had said to her friends he had never shown any sort of sense that his brother should show remorse for what he did. What ended Louise Hunt and Kyle Clifford's relationship was they went to an event and he was making comments about previous relationships he'd had.
It was too much. He had humiliated her again. He made a point of telling Louise that he had slept with several of the guests.
He even suggested he had been seeing people at that time as well. We now know that he did have other partners at the same time as Louise. That was when Louise decided to end that relationship.
With Clifford still in hospital, the police are gathering evidence, piecing together how a breakup turned into a bloodbath.
When you're running any murder investigation, and particularly one of this magnitude, the digital forensic strategy is really, really key. The victims' phones, the doorbell cameras that are present there, and just looking at the devices he's used. Phones tell us so much. At the end of June, 26th of June, Louise had ended the relationship with Kyle. Just a few days later, he had been looking at Carol's profile on social media. He'd taken active steps to get himself some weapons.
He'd bought a crossbow online. He'd also ordered an air rifle, which actually wasn't delivered.
Crucial to the investigation is CCTV of Clifford in several DIY stores.
One of the key moments for the police is when they've identified and got on CCTV him purchasing the rope, the duct tape, and also some petrol cans, which we can assume he was going to use to try and destroy any evidence that was left at the scene. By the 6th of July, Kyle has the crossbow. He's also purchased a knife online as well, a significant kitchen knife.
He's in shops buying rope, he's buying a crossbow and bolts. And all the while, he's kind of going about his normal life. So there was footage of him in the gym in the days before the attack. He's seen at a garden centre with his parents on the morning of the attack. And he knows that he's got this lethal plan.
I think what we need to remember about offenders like Kyle is this is someone who wants the control, and part of the enjoyment they get is from the planning of the event. That planning plays a hugely important part in kind of bolstering those feelings of dominance and control, which is ultimately what he wanted.
Police use the evidence they have gathered to create a timeline of what had taken place on the afternoon of July 9th.
Police have been able to establish that he left his home just after 1 o'clock, 7 minutes past 1 in the afternoon on the 9th of July. He was already armed then.
Clifford drives to the Hunt family home. He searches Horse Racing Today on his phone to establish the whereabouts of Louise's dad, sports commentator John Hunt.
He was looking at which racetrack John was going to be at that day, and that presumably was to ensure he wasn't present at the house when he went there.
This is a very, very clearly planned attack, very meticulous, and he had a real clear idea of what he was going to do.
At 2:32 p.m, Carol Clifford knocks on the door of the Hunt family home under the false pretense that he is returning Louise's belongings.
We know from the doorbell footage of their own home address that he's presented with a rucksack which has a weapon in it when he's purporting to be returning Louise's items.
Carol, Hannah and Louise and Amy's mum, showed Clifford a huge amount of kindness. Even on the day he turned up at their house to kill them, it was Carol who answered the door.
Clifford said he was just dropping off some of Louise's stuff. Mrs. Hunt asks Clifford how he was, and he replied, "I'm good, thank you. What's wrong? You look like..." Mrs. Hunt finished his sentence and said, "I've seen a ghost." A faint scream is heard shortly after.
Just 7 minutes after entering the property, Kyle attacks Carol with a knife.
The minute she turns her back, the mother is fatally stabbed.
Having killed Carol, Kyle has then gone back to his own car where he's taken out the crossbow before just walking back into the premises where he's then laid in wait for Louise to finish work.
Louise Hunt is in a pod in the garden where she runs her dog grooming business as Kyle waits in the house next to her mother Carol's dead body.
It's thought he waited in some region of an hour, just waiting to snare his victim.
At 4:13 p.m, Louise comes into the house.
Louise comes in, and of course she's greeted by that horrific sight of her mum lying there.
Clifford restrains Louise with duct tape around her ankles and wrists.
At this point, Carl Clifford was searching her phone and looking at who she'd been talking to on her phone over the previous days and weeks as well. He used Louise's phone to ascertain how much time he had at that house before John Hunt would eventually get home.
Police discover that Louise was put through even further torment in the house.
She is then subjected to that horrific ordeal. He raped Louise, his former girlfriend.
The forensic examination now shows that Louise was subjected to that ordeal probably for around 2 hours, 2.5 hours, which just would have been a terrifying experience for her. Not being able to do anything to protect herself any further, knowing what's already happened to her mum and being threatened in the way that she had been, as well as being further abused, must have been horrific.
After 2 hours of brutal torture, Kyle murders Louise with the crossbow. Shortly after, her sister Hannah arrives home.
Hannah returns home at around 10 to 7. So if you think now, this whole ordeal's been actually going on for several hours from when Carol first opened the door. And within minutes of Hannah entering the address, she too is shot.
In some of the most distressing details of what happened, Hannah Hunt has been hit with the crossbow, but is still alive. Carl Clifford has left, but she manages to somehow alert police.
She was able to make that 999 call to police, which was vital, A, in securing their response, but also in naming the offender as their only living witness at that point. And she was able to text her boyfriend. Those actions show true resilience and heroism of her, and the fact that despite suffering that horrific attack, she still did all she could to make sure there was justice for that family.
More than 4 hours after he arrived, Clifford flees the property. CCTV footage shows him calmly walking back to his car with the weapon under his arm. Ten weeks after this horrific crime, Kyle Clifford is released from hospital, paralysed from the chest down. Police can now conduct their interviews in custody.
Do you accept, Kyle, that based on the evidence, that this is a premeditated murder of 3 people?
Three members of one family have been brutally murdered in their own home. Kyle Clifford has shot himself with the very crossbow he used to murder his ex-girlfriend, Louise, and her sister, Hannah. His botched suicide attempt has left him paralysed from the chest down, so he is now wheelchair-bound, as police prepare to interview him for the first time.
Do you accept, Kyle, that based on the evidence, that this is a premeditated murder of 3 people?
He's there in the interview room, and clearly he's in his wheelchair because he's now disabled. Despite the gravity of the offences, the gruesome nature of the evidence that's being presented to him, he still is quite nonchalant about what's happened. There's no remorse there, there's no apology.
What gave you the right to deprive Carol of seeing her future grandchildren?
You could see from the officers and his body language that he was completely arrogant and he wasn't happy, or certainly was unwilling to help the police with their investigation.
You sit here in front of us and she's dead. Tell me how this has happened.
Police wanted answers as to why this had happened, but they weren't going to get any from Kyle Clifford.
Louise's belongings were your ticket into that address, yes?
Whilst Clifford was in hospital, police searched his phone and found some shocking evidence.
Police, they bring in the fact that they had found on his phone these notes, and one of them is entitled Last Letter.
This last letter was a suicide note Clifford wrote for his family.
Please don't think of this as me throwing my life away. I've lived, and I am grateful for everything and everyone that has been a part of it. It is now my time to leave and be at peace, as this is what I ultimately want. You all have to take care of each other and speak to each other, as that'll be the best thing for you all. I love you all so much. You okay, Carl? Carry on.
We know that Kyle preemptively left a suicide note on his phone, and I think when Kyle wrote this, he would have been in a deep state of victimhood. There was nothing about the family that he's actually hurt. It was all about how he was feeling and his sense of rejection, and he wanted to really tell the world that they needed to feel sorry for him when he wasn't here.
It feels as if Kyle Clifford is sort of doing PR for himself. He knows that this note would be released publicly after his death. Obviously, his attempt to end his own life has failed. But there is an attempt there again to control the narrative.
When you wrote that note, had you already planned the murders of Louise, Carol and Hannah?
Throughout police interviews, Clifford answers no comment to pretty much every question. It's quite clear that he doesn't want to cooperate.
Clifford showed no emotion, his nonchalant behaviour matching the same calmness he displayed when leaving the Hunt's home with the crossbow under his arm.
You walk away from that house. You've just killed 3 people and you stroll away like you're going down the shops.
As this case unfolds and this evidence is identified and the sequence of events of him taking active steps to prepare himself shows that he has thought about this. This is not a spur-of-the-moment decision.
There's two ways of looking at how he responds. Is he absolutely devoid of any sense of remorse or guilt in that he refuses to comment? Or has he, now that he's had a time to physically recover from the injuries and possibly emotionally recover from whatever it was that came over him, pure evil that day he committed the acts, has he actually realised what he's done and he can't even bring himself to talk about it? Only he knows.
You're calm, you're collected, you're considered. There is nothing about that which suggests that you've gone there for anything else than to kill almost an entire family. I'm right in what I'm saying, aren't I, Kyle? No, come on.
It's astounding, really, in many ways, to see his response here. I think that really the least he could have done in the face of all of the evidence is, at this point in time, to say that he was guilty of the offences. And yet everything he's doing is just, it's consistently and constantly about self-preservation. It's consistently a case of him putting himself in victim mode, of him pretending to be low status. He whimpers a little bit when the police are saying what they're saying in terms of what he wrote to his family. Interesting that he sniffles at that point because, again, he's feeling sympathy for himself. We have to remember the barbaric nature of what he did in that house. The two don't marry. This small little boy that you see in a wheelchair, we have to remember that this is the same person that stabbed a woman to death, then very calmly, in a composed way, walked to the car to collect a crossbow, to come back, to wait silently with a dead body while he waited for his next victim, to then gag, tie, bound and rape a young woman while holding her hostage for probably what was the longest hours of her life, to then kill another person. It's important that we don't separate the fact that this is the same person. So we look at this pitiful, pitiful character, this coward sat before us in this police room.
The police investigation into Clifford also discovered that he was looking at social media sites promoting misogynistic behaviour.
He's looking at the work of Andrew Tate, the influencer. The malign influence of people like Tate, who despises women, is a misogynist, questions the role of women, questions the responsibilities of women, suggesting that women are always the weaker sex, they always come to men, they always need them to solve the crimes. You're starting to get a picture of the sort of influence he had.
The evidence against Clifford is overwhelming. And on the 16th of September 2024, he was charged with 3 counts of murder, 2 counts of possession of an offensive weapon, and 1 count of false imprisonment.
Here are former soldiers charged over the murders of the wife and 2 daughters of the BBC racing commentator John Hunt.
Appearing in court today via video link from prison, he told the magistrate he had injured his voice and nodded to confirm his name and date of birth.
Three months later, Clifford was also charged with the rape of Louise Hunt. At the same hearing, he pleaded not guilty to the charges of murder, 2 charges of possession of an offensive weapon, and false imprisonment.
Put yourself in the position of the father and the surviving daughter. Just imagine, that actually makes the pain and the grief worse, because John and the surviving daughter think we will have to possibly sit through weeks and weeks and weeks of trying to get to the truth, which everyone knows this is a jilted lover turned killer.
Clifford appears via video link to face all charges, but at the last moment, changes his plea.
So he originally pleaded not guilty, which he then changed to guilty. And I think that was very simply just because his legal team told him it would be better to do so. What's particularly interesting to me is that he's never pleaded guilty to rape. It seems to fit the profile that he would want to show the world that he controlled Louise to the end and he was very dominant and that he did this thing, but at the same time, I think he's embarrassed because there might be particular family members on his part that would be privy to that. I think he can't outwardly admit what he did for that reason, even though the evidence speaks for itself. It's not something that he can bring himself to admit to, because in a strange way for him, it shows a weakness on his part. There's no desire, there's no care about anyone else in this scenario. It's all about him. And so to admit that this is something that he'd done, arguably he's going to be questioned in a different way. And so more would be required of him. He won't do that to himself.
The rape trial was due to start at Cambridge Crown Court.
Because he didn't admit to the rape, it meant there had to be a trial. Everyone had to sit through horrific detail, watch and listen to really harrowing evidence.
Everyone except Clifford, who refused to leave his cell.
There was the possibility he could have joined in on a video link from Belmarsh Prison, where he currently is, but instead we're told he's not leaving his cell and he will take absolutely no part in this trial.
Kyle, to some degree, has enjoyed, dare I say it, putting the family through what he has, because it shows again what control he has over the situation.
Did he not attend because he doesn't like to be presented as someone who's perhaps not the strong man that he was because he's now disabled and in that wheelchair? Or is it because he's still exerting control over the family of Louise, Hannah and Carol and wants to be able to say, it's my choice whether or not I come into court?
Someone like Kyle is always going to avoid court because he would have to put himself in an uncomfortable situation, and this is not something he will ever do.
Clifford is the 6th high-profile defendant who has refused to attend their trial in the last 3 years.
It's not uncommon for these criminals to refuse to come to court. There has been a change in the law that's given judges more power to insist that they do attend court, but the punishment is 2 extra years on their sentence. Now, for someone like Clifford, who is facing 3 whole life orders, 2 extra years is not going to make any difference.
The prosecution presented their evidence over around 2 or 3 days, and some really, really horrific details given out in court that will be hard for anyone to listen to, not least the family members of those concerned. Clifford's defence was that his DNA on Louise Hunt came from when they were going out, and that it had laid on Louise for more than 10 days or so. It was essentially historical. In court, the prosecution said there was absolutely no possibility of that, and frankly, this was a really, really flimsy and offensive defence.
The defence presented no evidence.
It's really stressful for any family to have to attend court for something like this, but for the Hunt family especially so. They were there for all 4 days of this trial, and they maintained this dignity throughout.
After 45 minutes of deliberation, the jury returned their verdict: guilty.
Today, this man, Kyle Clifford, the man who mercilessly attacked them, was found guilty of raping his ex-partner, Louise.
Clearly relief from the Hunt family, and a round of applause as well in the public gallery that this trial was now over.
Kyle Clifford was now ready to receive his fate, and the whole country, so shocked by this crime, were waiting to see justice served.
This was the sort of final moment, really, for everyone to see it finished and for everyone to get closure, but most importantly for the Hunt family to see Kyle Clifford be put behind bars for the rest of his life.
The evidence I have heard shows you to be a jealous man, soaked in self-pity, a man who holds women in utter contempt.
In a crime that shocked the nation, Louise Hunt, her sister Hannah and her mother Carol were killed at their home in Bushey in Hertfordshire. Cambridge Crown Court heard how Louise's former boyfriend, Kyle Clifford, had stabbed Carol to death before raping Louise and, armed with a crossbow, shooting her and her sister Hannah. 5 days after being convicted of these heinous crimes, Carl Clifford was due to be sentenced, and the country held its breath.
It was a case with huge interest from the media.
Carl Clifford was not in court, refusing to leave his cell in Belmarsh prison, but the family still delivered their impact statements.
There are days in this job that stay with you more than others, and I think particularly John's statement, there's bits of that I won't forget for a long time.
I am so proud of all my girls. Unlike you, Kyle, at every step of their lives they made the correct choices to improve themselves as people. Louise enjoyed more success and fulfillment in one morning than you achieved in your entire miserable life.
And there were tears in court as he spoke, not just among friends and family, but, you know, within the legal teams, within the press. John talked about the family inviting Clifford over for Christmas. He spent 4 or 5 days with them over Christmas in the family home. And to think then, not much more than 6 months later, in that same home, Clifford attacked the family. And I think that really struck a chord with a lot of people.
For each of these 3 murders, the sentence will be one of life imprisonment with a whole life order. That means a sentence from which she will never be released.
The court case, which heard of the brutal murders, coincided with International Women's Day.
Unfortunately, it's too late to protect those already taken from us.
For the last 10 years on International Women's Day, the MP Jess Phillips stands in Parliament and reads the names of the women that have been killed by men in the last year. It was 95 this year, and it included Carol, Hannah and Louise.
Carol Hunt, Louise Hunt, Hannah Hunt.
It took about 4 minutes to read out all those victims' names. It's shocking, and that's the real, tangible, devastating impact that misogyny can have.
And we cannot stand and say anymore that lessons will be learned. What I promise is that I will actually learn the lessons.
Back in court, John Hunt's statement paid tribute to the courage his daughter had shown in ending her abusive relationship, and he urged others to do the same.
Like any woman should be allowed to do, she worked you out, despite repeated deceit, and said enough is enough. I hope women around the world will take Louise's bravery as a shining beacon for their lives. If you feel enough is enough, then it is.
We saw in the trial the links made to content created by Andrew Tate. You know, there's so much misogyny online that young men are consuming, and there are real-life consequences.
Domestic abuse isn't always physical and violent. There is now more awareness around coercive control, which became a crime in 2015.
Coercive control is really hard to describe unless you've actually been in it. A lot of people say, well, I don't know whether I'm being abused because they've never actually hit me. They're very manipulative people. I mean, if only they came with a warning sign with a tattoo on their forehead. It would be great for victims and survivors, but they don't.
He wasn't happy with just killing the person who he said had hurt him. He wanted to kill all the women present in that family, and he thought by killing those 3 women, he got the ultimate control. But of course he hasn't.
The evidence I have heard shows you to be a jealous man, soaked in self-pity, a man who holds women in utter contempt.
There were clenched fists and pats on the back in celebration among friends and family when the judge told them that Carl Clifford will never be released from prison. And as they left court, nods of acknowledgement between the jurors and John Hunt.
I think it's really difficult for any of us to understand the everlasting impact that the death of Hannah, Louise and Carol will have on Amy and John. They have to deal with this now for the rest of their lives.
Whatever misery lies ahead for you, remember on your dying day there will be no release for you. The screams of hell, Kyle, I can hear them faintly now. The red carpet will come out for you. You will realise your miserable fate will last for eternity.
Revealing the inner workings of a murder investigation like never before. Join detectives inside the incident room to witness how cold-blooded killers are brought to justice. Brand new next Wednesday at 8. Next, Killed by Our Daughter, the McCulloch Murders.